Hey guys, this week I'm joined by my son Garen, and we talk about the temple, especially because he is a deacon. So we're going to be talking about what it's like being a deacon going into the temple, and really the big outcome, the big takeaway from this lesson is how do we get to the temple more often? Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Third Hour of Power. This is Grady of This Mormon Life, and this is a podcast where we talk about the third hour lessons from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And this week we're talking about lesson 23, the blessings of the Holy Temple. And my guest this week is my son and newish deacon, Garen. How's it going, Garen?
Hi.
I brought Garen on because he loves the temple, and he's been a couple times now since he's been ordained a deacon, and so I wanted to just...
I've done baptisms for the dead in 2 temples.
Yep, 2 different temples. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but one of the things I wanted to talk about in the lesson was something about the life of Gordon B. Hinckley, because, that era with President Hinckley was an era of temple building. We had so many new temples going up. I wish I knew the stats off the top of my head, but I feel like we went from like 50 to like 100 and something by the time he passed away. He was very busy with temple building, and one of the things that he did to help to make that happen faster was that he started building smaller temples. In fact, he said that the church could build many smaller temples for the cost of the Washington Temple then under construction. It would take the temples to the people instead of having the people travel great distances to get to them. And it's true, we hear these stories about people that had traveled, sold everything that they had to get to the temple. We even have some of those inside of this lesson here. People that had to do that because they knew that those temple blessings are so important. And so now we live in an era where most of the church lives within 200 miles of a temple. In fact, ours is pretty close, isn't it, Garen?
Yep.
How close is our temple?
It's in the city right next to us.
Yep, and that's nice. In fact, before we lived in this house, the temple was like a mile and a half away, which was really nice to have it so close.
So here's Queen Creek, and then we just go a little bit more, and there's Gilbert Temple.
Mm-hmm. Yep, really close. We're right next to the Gilbert Temple. Another thing it talks about in this lesson, it says that sacred matters deserve sacred consideration. When you leave the doors of the house of the Lord, be true to a sacred trust to speak not of that which is holy and sanctified. I love that, just the idea of the sacredness of the temple. It's not secret. It's not something that we don't tell people about because it's, only for the cool kids. But it's sacred and it's special. It's something that I talk about the temple in an appropriate manner with people that are genuinely curious about those things. But at the same time, I try to be very, very reverent with those things that I talk about. And I don't know where the line is of what you can and can't talk about. But I feel like, use the Spirit. I probably wouldn't do any hand gestures, but, be reverent with it and, be honest. And one of the things that I really like about the temple is just the fact that it is something that's so close to us. Garen, how has having the temple close to you been a blessing?
I could just say, can I do baptisms for the dead today? Get my church clothes on. Then we drive to the temple and do the baptisms and drive back.
Mm-hmm. It's really easy. I mean, you think about these people that had given everything just to go to the temple once. And, we can go wherever we want, really. We can just go at the drop of a hat, which is a huge blessing for us. We really appreciate living so close to the temple because I know it's important for our family to be there in the temple. The other thing that I just love about the temple is just the biggest promise that we get. In section 2, it talks about the crowning achievement of the temple, which is, being able to be sealed as a family forever. And, me and Christy, we were sealed in the San Diego temple, and it was so important to us that we were sealed there because we wanted to make sure that our family would last forever. And that's why so many people had given up so much to go to the temple, because they wanted that eternal family. It says that, he talks about a family that gave up everything to be able to go to the temple near them in the Polynesian Islands. Yeah, you want to read that quote there?
It says, "We could not afford to come. Our worldly possessions consisted of an old car, our furniture, and our dishes. I said to my family, we cannot afford to go. They looked into the faces of my beautiful wife and beautiful children and said, we cannot afford to go. If the Lord will give me strength..."
Cannot afford not to go.
"We cannot afford not to go. If the Lord will give me strength, I will work and earn enough for another car, furniture, and dishes. Should I lose these, my loved ones, I would be poor indeed, both life and eternity."
Perfect. Yeah. Just think about that eternal perspective of all the things that, we think about that are important to us. The most important thing that we have is our family, which is so great that we have the temple so close to so many of our members now. Here's a part that I love. So right now I'm one of the deacons advisors, and I love that as deacons we go to the temple pretty often together. And the thing that is so neat about this is that as we're trying to have youth-led leadership and letting them have ideas for what we do, we try to have one of our mutual nights be dedicated to more spiritual matters. And I was talking with my presidency, and I said, what do you guys want to do to help everyone feel the Spirit more often, and to have a stronger relationship with their Heavenly Father? And it was them that said, we want to go to the temple. And I'm like, awesome, let's go to the temple. So we got everyone that recommends. We went to the temple. And then, a couple of months later, I suggested, what if we go to the temple again? Guys are like, we can go again? I'm like, yeah, we can go as much as we want. Like, yeah, let's go a lot. And I just love that they were excited about going to the temple. They want to be there. What do you think? What do you think about those times when you go to the temple as a deacon's quorum?
It feels really fun to be helping serve with my friends.
Mm-hmm. You ever bring your own names to the temple?
Almost all the time.
How come?
Because I like doing family history.
Mm-hmm. It says here in the lesson, boys and girls in large numbers have been reminded that these temples are not only for their parents, but also for them. When 12 years of age, they may enter the house of the Lord and stand as proxies in baptisms for those beyond the veil of death. What a great and unselfish service this is. What a wonderful thing for our youth to be involved in this totally selfless act in behalf of others who are powerless to help themselves. You think about all the distractions that our youth have in their life right now. School, sports, screens, all those things are coming against them. And here we can say, you know what? We trust you enough to go to the temple and do this sacred work. I think it's so important that, as families, it's great to go as a deacon's quorum, but I think even as families, we need to go to the temple more often. One of the things I loved, we had a general authority come visit us. He talked about how whenever he would go and travel with his family, they'd always try and go to the temple wherever they were at. That was important to them. They would go and do a session in that temple. Our family is kind of mixed. Like if we go on vacation, we still have a bunch of kids that are younger, so we can't always go inside the temple. We always go and visit the temples. In fact, Karen we went to Utah last summer. What was it like going to visit all those temples?
It was pretty fun.
How come?
Because I liked visiting temples.
Why?
Yes. Seeing the Salt Lake Temple made me feel respect.
Mm-hmm. For what?
The pioneers. I thought of how hard they worked.
Yeah. I mean, it took them 40 years to make that temple. They didn't have any of the cool tools.
They placed it brick by brick by brick.
They didn't have all the cool stuff that we have nowadays. It was like pulleys and oxen and all that crazy stuff. Just like that. Remember we were at Temple Square and it was so cool. We saw so much stuff. They had a thing on the Nauvoo Temple. Remember they had that pulley, Garen?
Yeah.
You had to pull up that big old stone. It was pretty cool.
It looks like it will be a lot easier than trying to lift it up by itself.
So, when we go to the temple, we talked about in this lesson just that we do it, for other people, and it's such a blessing to have temples close by us. One of the things that I love about the temple, though, is the blessing that it adds to our own lives. The blessing that it gives us as we go and we serve there. The section here talks about in times of darkness, we try to get to the house of the Lord and there shut out the world. Receive his holy ordinances and extend these to our forebears. At the conclusion of a session in the temple, sit quietly in the celestial room and ponder the blessings you have received in your own behalf or that you have extended to those who are beyond the grave.
When are we allowed to go to the celestial room?
You're just not there yet. I don't know why kids can't go to the celestial room yet. You get to go when we go on tours, though. We get to tour the temple, but I think probably it's sacred, and so it's just not ready for kids yet and youth. But you guys still get to go to the chapel.
What age do I get to go to?
When you receive your endowment, you can go into the celestial room.
How old do I have to be to get my endowment?
Typically 18. So, yeah, to go to the celestial room, you got to have at least receive your endowment. But it's something to look forward to then, right? Because I love getting to go and sit in the celestial room when I have things that I'm concerned about. And we can receive so much peace going to the temple. A friend of ours was a temple president, and I love one of the things that he would always say, because he would always invite to go to the temple every time he spoke or taught. And he would say, come to the temple. If you've got any baggage or any burdens that are weighing you down, leave them at the door and come inside and feel the Spirit of the Lord. Come and worship there. He says, and then when you leave, feel free to leave them there. Don't pick them up on your way out. Just leave them with the Lord, and He'll take care of it. And it was so great in times of stress and times where not quite sure if things were going to work out in a way we were hoping they would. It was great to be able to have the temple to go to be able to have some time dedicated to thinking about the Lord, not stressing. And typically we walked away feeling better. And, if that's something that you've had as well, that's something great to share in a lesson and appropriate. Maybe even ask someone in your class, if you're a teacher, if they would love to share a time. Sometimes it's hard to think of something off the top of your head of one time that's happened, but if you can ask a person or two to share that, I think that would be great. I think one of the big purposes of this lesson is to increase the amount of members who are going into the temple. I think it's one of the key indicators that you've got a healthy ward, a ward that has people that are ready to live with their Heavenly Father again, that feel close to Him, is how often they go to the temple, how often they go and they receive those blessings. So I would say try to find opportunities in your lesson to encourage that kind of behavior. I know that we're told that we're not supposed to be suggesting how often people should go to the temple, but I've seen all kinds of encouragements, I could say, where it's been every month, even every week, have been those encouragements. And you guys live all over the world, so if it's something where it's feasible that for you to go more often, go more often. If it's not, don't. But I think it's one of the important things we need to do is to set time aside to go to the temple. When I was in Orange County growing up, our temple was in LA. And then it became the temple in Newport Beach. So we went from an hour and a half away to about 15 minutes away. And I went a little bit more often, but still I would still find gaps in my behaviors. And even now moving to Arizona, our temple, when I lived in our last house, was 5 minutes away. But I would say that it really didn't affect how often I went to the temple. I still went to the temple the same amount of time. In fact, sometimes I even found myself going less because I thought to myself, hey, this is so easy now. Temple's so easy. I can just go whenever I want. I can go whenever I have free time. Well, typically, I don't know about you, I hardly ever have free time. So we had to make sure that, okay, we got to structure our time still. We want to go to the temple as much as we can. We can go more often and more easily. And so we need to make sure that we're still making it a priority and plan ahead to do that. So as you guys do that, if you guys plan ahead to go to the temple, you'll see a lot more blessings in your life. And I would love to just know in the comments, if you go to the show notes, leave us some comments there, or even in YouTube, let us know what you do to help yourself go to the temple more often. I think that's one of the big takeaways is realizing what can we do to get there more often, and what are some things that people do that help them be more successful with that. In fact, one of the blog posts we have, I'll put a link to it in the show notes, is a way to get more out of the temple and your service that you have there. So I'll put a link to it there. And we're so excited you guys are joining us, and we thank you all so much. And until next time, my name is Grady of This Mormon Life. That's this-mormon-life. It's where you can find all kinds of things like the show notes for this podcast episode, but also you can find family commentaries, social commentaries. You can find movie reviews from a faith-based perspective. And we're excited you're here for us. And until next time, we bid you all a fond adieu. So I hope you guys liked that episode. If you want, you can find more episodes of the podcast right over here. You can also find stuff over here of some recent videos and some of our most popular ones. And then also right here, you can find out how you can subscribe to get updates of when the next videos are available. We'll have more podcast episodes. We'll be talking about how to be a better teacher. We'll have some movie reviews on here, even some commentaries of things that we think are important to us, and hopefully they'll be important to you.